By violence, a young woman's boyfriend now charged with killing her and her mother. Her brother was also hurt but survived, telling John Sherrick his sister was trying to get away from her boyfriend when he opened fire.
The sudden return of Aaron Porter, after 20 years of being presumed dead, shocked everyone.
And accused of killing his ex-girlfriend on Facebook Live, changes his plea to guilty today.
His unexpected reappearance in the town had everyone asking questions.
That's right, Jackie. Everybody in the courtroom was in tears today as Jonathan Robinson apologized to the mother of the victim, Renita Williams.
What happened to him all these years? Why didn't he age? David, his best friend.
Kay Baker tried to run for her life during a violent attack that ended in her murder. And now 5 months later, her accused killer and boyfriend, Matthew Terry, is headed to trial. And the jury may hear from an ex-girlfriend that survived a knife attack from Terry years ago.
Was stunned when he realized that Aaron was standing right in front of him after all this time.
Police arrested a man for allegedly strangling his 46-year-old girlfriend at her flat due to relationship problems. The 43-year-old arrestee was brought back to the scene in Wah Kay House in Chewan for reenactment.
Is it really you? David asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Aaron didn't speak, he just nodded slowly, his eyes filled with confusion and something else, pain. As Aaron was taken to the Pettis household, there was an eerie silence surrounding him. Kyle Pettis, the homeowner, had been the one to catch Aaron breaking into his house, but he didn't know who the young man was. The sheriff arrived and tried to calm everyone down. Aaron remained silent, not giving any answers. David, still struggling to comprehend the situation, tried to connect with Aaron, but something felt off. He seemed lost, as if a part of him was stuck in time, unable to fully return. Everyone wondered what had happened to him during those missing years, and what secrets he was hiding. Unanswered questions as the days passed, more and more questions surrounded Aaron's mysterious return. David couldn't stop thinking about the strange silence that followed Aaron wherever he went. It was as if something had happened to him that had taken away his ability to speak. The young man, who once was full of life and laughter, now seemed trapped in a world of his own. At the Pettis house, Aaron was treated with suspicion, but also curiosity. Kyle Pettis couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, especially after Aaron's strange behavior when he broke into the house. What's his deal? Kyle wondered aloud, still trying to understand why Aaron was acting so oddly. David, on the other hand, was desperate for answers. He couldn't understand why Aaron wasn't talking, even after all these years. Had he been through something traumatic? Was he the same person? Or had he changed in a way that couldn't be explained? David wanted to help his old friend, but there was one thing he couldn't deny. Aaron wasn't just back from the dead. Something else had happened to him. Something that might not be of this world. Family secrets as the truth slowly unraveled. The Porter family struggled to make sense of Aaron's return. David's sister, Andrea, was the first to realize something was deeply wrong. Despite her excitement to have her brother back, she couldn't ignore the strange behavior that had followed him home. The man standing before her wasn't the same Aaron she remembered. At dinner, the tension was thick. Andrea couldn't help but ask the questions that had been gnawing at her. Aaron, where have you been all these years? Why didn't you try to contact us? Her voice trembled, a mix of hope and disbelief. But Aaron only stared blankly, his mind seemingly a million miles away. Their father, who had aged terribly over the years, was even more confused. His memory was failing, and the mention of Aaron's name seemed to trigger strange reactions. "I know my boy's name," he muttered repeatedly. But then he'd lose focus, speaking about things that didn't make sense, like his late wife Lucy, who had passed away years ago. The family felt the growing divide between them, unsure whether to embrace Aaron's return or acknowledge that the man standing before them wasn't the brother, son, or husband they once knew. Secrets were hidden beneath layers of silence, and as the days passed, the answers seemed to drift farther away. The past wasn't ready to let go. Mysterious behavior, Aaron's behavior, became more unsettling as the days went by. David and his family had hoped for clarity, but instead, they were met with more confusion. Aaron remained eerily silent, his once vibrant personality now replaced with an unsettling calm. He wandered around the house, staring at the walls, as if memories from a distant past were slowly trying to resurface. One afternoon, while everyone sat in the living room, Aaron suddenly stood up and walked toward the window, his gaze fixed on something outside. No one dared to interrupt him, as the tension in the room grew thicker. It was as if he was waiting for something, or someone. David noticed his brother's odd behavior more and more. He would occasionally mutter something under his breath, though it was never loud enough to understand. At night, Aaron would sit by the window for hours, staring out into the darkness, almost as if he were waiting for an invisible visitor. His mind seemed to be in two places at once, as if he were trapped in a memory he couldn't escape. David tried to talk to him, to reach out, but every attempt seemed to fall short. "Aaron, what happened to you? Where have you been all this time?" But Aaron would just look at him, his eyes distant and clouded, offering no answers. David felt helpless. The man who once was his best friend now seemed like a stranger who carried the weight of a past that no one could understand. And yet, in the back of his mind, David couldn't shake the feeling that the answers to his brother's disappearance were far darker and more complicated than anyone realized. The truth revealed the moment of revelation came unexpectedly, like a thunderclap shattering the silence. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Aaron's distant behavior shifted. He stood up abruptly, his eyes wide with a strange intensity. For the first time since his return, he spoke, his voice raw and trembling. "I didn't want to come back," Aaron said, his words laced with pain. The room fell silent as everyone looked at him, waiting for him to continue. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose this." David's heart raced. Was this finally the moment? The truth that had been hidden for so long? Aaron's gaze shifted to David, then back to the rest of the family. He began to explain, but it was as if the words were trapped, struggling to find their way out. He spoke of strange visions, of darkness, and of a place that defied explanation. It was a place beyond time, a place where the laws of reality didn't seem to apply. I was taken," Aaron confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "By something I can't even describe. Not human. Not anything you could imagine. I didn't age, David. I couldn't. And now I'm back. But I don't know why." The room was silent once again, the weight of his words hanging in the air. The truth, however impossible it seemed, was finally out. But the answers only led to more questions. What had happened to Aaron during those missing years? And what did it all mean for his family? As the truth settled in, David could feel a shift in the atmosphere. This was no ordinary return. Something far darker had unfolded during Aaron's time away. And whatever it was, it wasn't finished yet. A final goodbye as the days passed after Aaron's confession. The family struggled to come to terms with the enormity of what had been revealed. Aaron's presence in the house became more haunting, his silence now filled with an eerie tension. The family was caught between relief and fear, knowing that the truth had come out, yet still unsure of what it truly meant. David, feeling a deep sense of loss, took one last walk with Aaron. It was a quiet moment, the two brothers walking side by side as they had done so many times before, but now everything had changed. Aaron's demeanor was different, heavier somehow, as though he knew his time was running out. "I'm sorry, David," Aaron said, his voice thick with regret. "I didn't mean to leave like that. I didn't choose any of this. But now, I know I can't stay, not like this." David felt a pang in his chest. The brother he had once known was slipping away again, but this time it wasn't into the unknown. It was into something far more final. He couldn't stop it. "I'll never forget you, Aaron," David whispered, his voice breaking. Aaron smiled faintly, a sad, knowing smile. "I'll be with you always." As the sun set, Aaron walked into the distance, disappearing into the horizon. David stood there, watching him go, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders even as a new one settled in his heart. The truth had come too late, but at least Aaron was at peace. For the family, the journey had come full circle, leaving behind unanswered questions, but also a sense of closure. They would have to learn to live without him once again, this time knowing the truth. And for David, the final goodbye was harder than anything he could have imagined.